Welcome to the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. My name is JT and you are watching Black Box Trading. I'll probably be in a better mood today because we had nearly a $10,000 move in the price of Bitcoin. Holy. So we'll recap everything we said from last show. Long story short, we had a bull div. When we dump, we pump. When we pump, we dump. So that's already playing out. We're getting the pump side of that dumpiness. Is it going to get us out of here? Is it going to reverse the narrative? Are we going to begin to get cooperation from the Trump administration in terms of the equity markets? Are we going to see this transition take place? We'll get into all that and more in just a moment. If you guys would do me a solid and hit the like button and retweet this, post this, share this with whomever. Do that at the beginning. If you are going to share it with someone, get them in now. Get them in the live stream now. It's better to have them here live anyways. All right, let's dive into it. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin. So, as we said on yesterday's show, we were looking at this bullish divergence. And we had this low and a lower low and a low and a higher low. Every time things get really negative, every time it dumps, you have to expect a pump. Now, the pump doesn't need to change the trend. It just means that there's an overreaction to the downside. You have to get that corrective action to the upside and vice versa, depending on the trend. I didn't expect it to be this quick, but it's just a reflection of how volatile the markets are right now. It's a very interesting market condition that we're in right now, in that things are happening really quickly, and it is a whipsaw out there. Please be careful if you are using leverage out there, because it's hard to hold on to those leveraged positions when we are whipsawing this much. All right, so I said in yesterday's show, we will likely trend up to this downward sloping line of resistance, this downwards white line. Over the next, I said over the next day or two. It happened hours later, but I said over the next day or two, we'll probably come up and come up to this line and test it and probably give a second attempt for a breakout. So we had our first attempt at a breakout right here, and I think I still maintain the fact that I think we're going to get a breakout here. Now, we didn't break out right away. We came right up to it, actually. So this level is certainly noteworthy. You definitely want to pay it. If you don't have this line on your chart, definitely add it to your chart, because there is a lot of respect. You can see how much it was respected back here. It was a fake out here, and we come right up to here and are currently getting rejection. Now, just like in yesterday's show, when it dumps, it pumps. And when it pumps, it dumps. It just pumped. So expect a corrective move over the next, I guess I got to start talking in a matter of hours. Over the next 12 to 24 hours, we can expect a little bit of a correction. But I do think that this will ultimately resolve, at least as another attempt to break out above this level. So we'll have to see how things play out there. Let's go over to the 12-hour. I've been making note of the 12. Actually, no, let's go to the daily and turn alpha numerics on. I want to see. So yesterday's show, we were below everything. I really had nothing bullish on the technical side of things. I had nothing that we look at on the technical side apart from that bullish divergence. I had nothing really positive to say. We were below all of the moving averages. We were below the 200. We were in a technical downtrend. And there wasn't a whole lot to say back then. But now we are below, or we are above the 7. We did get a rejection here at the 30. But that's better than yesterday. So it's still not all, rainbows and gumdrops and happy skies and happiness throughout the markets. There's still a lot of overhead resistance that we do need to overcome. But, that's step one. We've gotten above this support/resistance flip. We are above the 7. We got rejected from the 30. So our next target is to reclaim that 30. If we can reclaim the 30, that's going to drag the 7 up for a bullish cross and bring our bullish cross above the 30. And then that clears the way for us to get above that 50 and that 200. Once we are above the 50, which is this orange line currently set at 85,457, and once we get above this 200, which is the red and green wave, our bull market, bear market bias, that's currently at above 87, then there's really not a lot holding us back at that point. Now, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. We are still range bound. We are still inside of this consolidation, and we still have plenty of overhead resistance to deal with. But that's what we would be looking for if this trend was to correct to the upside and begin to show strength and a repair of the local trend. MicroStrategy. Look at MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy had a massive rebound. Actually, you know what? Screw MicroStrategy. Look at the S&P 500. Look at that candle. When is the last time you saw a candle like that on the S&P 500? So why is all of this happening? What's going on? Well, for those who don't know, basically, Trump has paused all tariffs and lowered tariffs down to 10%, with the exception of China, who was putting in harsh retaliatory tariffs. And China is now faced with a 125% tariff. They're really putting the squeeze on China. They are trying everything in their power to correct the deficit imbalance with China, and they're throwing down. They're throwing down. Scott Bassent is, he came on. I couldn't find the original tweet, but I got this other tweet that I also think is noteworthy. I couldn't find the original one, where he's saying that this is all part of the plan. And we've been saying this too. Trump is applying pressure to the world and been dumping the markets while doing so, taking a lot of flack and a lot of heat, and a lot of people really upset, playing with the levers of this fragile financial system that we've built. And he's forced people's hands and forced them to the negotiation table. And as a result, 70 nations have come to the Trump administration, and they are ready to negotiate trade deals. So the plan's working. The plan's working, with the exception of China, where they are playing hardball, and the U.S. is playing hardball right back to them. So interesting times. And we're going to see how this all plays out. Now, this tweet that I have here, I don't know if you guys can hear it. Let's just listen to this.
Yeah. That a Spanish official said today that maybe Europe should look to China instead of the U.S. And I can tell you that is a losing proposition for the Europeans, because what is going to happen, and we've already seen it starting last week, that as we put up the tariff wall, China's business model is predicated on this incredibly imbalanced economy and exporting low-cost goods and subsidized goods to the rest of the world. And guess where they are going to land? On the European shores. So our allies, part of our discussion, as our allies come in and talk to us, is how do we get China to rebalance? That is the big
part of the discussions, part of the negotiation tactics of the Trump administration, is to wrap in to the negotiation. If they're negotiating with Europe, they're going to say, okay, this is our deal between you and me, but we also need to make sure that you're not going to make a deal with China. So they are coming at China, man. They're coming at China from all ends and all angles. All of their negotiation, a big part of their negotiation tactics, is to make sure that they are squeezing China. And they're doing it at a very, China's kind of caught with their pants down here, because with the Evergrande development kind of, questioning solvency, they've overdeveloped. They've invested so much in infrastructure to the point of overdevelopment that they're probably holding some pretty large debts, and they've left themselves somewhat exposed. And now, they were counting on all this money because they've gotten complacent with all of the money with global trade with the U.S. and other nations, that they had a long-term plan as to how they were going to pay for some of the financial mistakes that they've made, and now that plan's gone to shit. So it's going to be really interesting to see how China handles that. But let's head back over to the charts. Man, this is a crazy chart. Look at this chart. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. All right, let's finish things up with Bitcoin. Let's go over to this chart here. Let's finish up our thoughts on Bitcoin, and then we'll talk about the rotation, Bitcoin dominance, S&P 500, gold. Gold is looking, not surprising, really well, even with all of this current increase in value of the traditional assets. Gold is still going up. So it seems like everything's going up. It's nuts. So short term, what we're looking for is break the 30. Right now, we are above the 7, which on the daily is your weekly average price. We are above the weekly average price, but we are below the monthly average price. What we need to do is we need to get above the monthly average price, and that will begin to repair the trend. That will begin to curve all of the EMAs up and start to make things look a lot better from a technical point of view. It will allow you to put the pedal to the metal and hit the gas on some of your trades and investments, including the possibility of some leverage plays as well. I still think the leverage should be hands off for the moment, but yeah. Anyways, let's take a look at gold, or we'll just take a quick peek at the NASDAQ. Just huge. I mean, the NASDAQ's up against a pretty staunch resistance point here. This was where we kind of lost support here. So, it's got to get above that. I don't think it's going to happen cleanly. Like, this is a massive, massive move up. When it pumps, what happens? It dumps. Okay. So it's gonna probably come down and retest the 7, which is a 6 to 7% move. So don't get complacent out there. Certainly don't think that it's going to be nothing but up only from this point. I do think we will achieve an up only market eventually, but we're certainly not there just yet. And switching gears over to gold, what a rebound on gold. My God, what a rebound on gold. This is crazy because we're seeing the fundamentals be laid for a transition over to hard money, or neutral money, I guess I should say. So with all of this trade war and bullshit, yes, it's volatile in the traditional and local markets. Like the Japanese stock market took a massive hit. The Chinese stock market is plummeting. And then the S&P and the NASDAQ and the American markets is also doing crap from a macro perspective. And this is forcing the hands. One of the plays that China is doing is they've been selling a shit ton of treasury bonds. Now, they still need reserves. They can't just hold nothing. They're not going to hold the yuan. So what are they going to hold? They might look to certain other neutral assets like gold and Bitcoin. So it was very telling on this last dump on these last couple days where the S&P was doing really, really poorly, and Bitcoin was doing poorly as well, but not nearly as bad. Specifically considering that, a 1 to 2% move in the S&P has usually translated to a 2 to 4 to 6% move in Bitcoin. Bitcoin held its own, man. Bitcoin did really well with that meltdown. And I think this is a reflection of a lot of these nations looking for alternatives to prevent themselves from being so captive by the US by searching for neutral currencies. And gold is the oldest neutral currency in modern history and, prehistory as well. Bitcoin's a little bit newer, so obviously it's going to be a lot more volatile, but it's still a neutral currency nonetheless. Gary Gerritsen, hey Baloo and friends, hope you are doing well and hodling strong. We're hanging in there, buddy. We're hanging in there. We're hodling. Beautiful pump from Mauricio. I hope gold becomes a leading indicator for Bitcoin, but people have yet to figure it out that BTC is risk off, similar to gold. When they do, the S&P correlation will end. I actually think that there's parts of that I totally agree with, but there's parts that I don't. I don't think people are going to see Bitcoin as a risk off asset until we're at full Bitcoinization, like hyper Bitcoinization. In our world, we think that we think that the world is a lot more further along with crypto adoption, but we live in a bubble, man. Nobody fucking talks about crypto. Nobody thinks about crypto. You wake up, you go to your phone, you check the price of Bitcoin, and before you go to bed, you check the price of Bitcoin. Everyone else in the world just lives their fucking life, man. They just live their life, and Bitcoin is a word that they heard 5 times in their entire life. Seriously, like that's where the rest of the world is at. Like, imagine a world where over the last 16 years, you've heard the word Bitcoin in conversation 5 times. It might be around you every day, but you're in the matrix, man. You're blind. You can't see it. You don't hear it. You might see the word, you might see the logo every single day at your local coffee shop, but you don't actually see it. It's not there. Like, it's not something that registers in your brain. And that's most of the world. So until we get to a much, much, much higher level of adoption and a much, much higher level of Bitcoin price appreciation, we're not going to see it. The world will not see it as a safe haven. Not for decades. That's my opinion. But you're right, from a fundamentals point of view, absolutely. And when they do, and I also think that the decoupling with the S&P is going to happen sooner than that. So one scenario that I've been bouncing around in my head as to what is it going to take for Bitcoin to decouple. And, you know, we'll cover this in other shows. Right now, it's a positive green day, so we don't need to talk about what I think is coming as far as a negative bear market. But I think that everything is going to crash at some point, and in a very big way, in a way that we haven't seen basically since the financial crisis or the dot-com boom or the 1987 stock crash. We haven't seen one of these events happen for a long time. And I think we're going to get one of those events where everything falls, and including Bitcoin, everything will take a beating, and Bitcoin will recover the strongest and the quickest. And I think that's probably the easiest way for the decoupling to take effect, is with, because you got to get speculation out of the way. And the only way to get speculation out of the way is to make everybody lose their money. So if everybody loses their money, they don't have money to speculate with. And if they don't have money to speculate with, speculation is gone. The only thing that's left is price performance in the lens of intrinsic value. And Bitcoin's intrinsic value is really undervalued, in my opinion, compared to any other sector out there, whether you're comparing it to any stock, whether you're comparing it to any real estate market, whether you're comparing it to any value of commodity, bonds, anything, it's undervalued. But you need to strip away the speculation for that to happen. And the easiest way to do that is with a massive crash. You're absolutely right. No one wants to hear it or understand that if they save in dollars, the government is stealing their buying power over time. It's not that they don't want to hear it. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. I have these discussions with people all the time. I ask them, do you know what a deficit is? Like, yeah, I know what a deficit is. It's when, you know, we spend more than we earned. Yeah. Do you know where that money comes from? And then, you know, they glaze over and they have no idea, no concept that a deficit is taxes that you didn't vote for. That they just can't. It's impossible. You're never going to find yourself in a conversation that just happens in the wild where somebody is ready to receive and understand that statement. You're just never going to encounter that. These conversations will be had when people get a lot more hurt, when they get much more injured financially by the government, and then they will be searching for answers. Right now, they're not searching for answers. They're just having discussions, or you're having debates, friendly conversation with a bunch of people on the hamster wheel, a bunch of rats in the matrix. And they will never understand until they feel that pain. So yeah, it's an uphill battle, but you know, It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We know that this technology is robust, and this technology is just the best thing that we have. It's just nobody knows it yet. It's the early days of the internet. We're still in the early days of the internet. As far as, like, if you look at the internet adoption wave, the internet came out the first website was in 1991, and people still weren't fully using the internet by 2007. And that's where we are right now. People aren't using the internet. People aren't using blockchain. Anyways, side rant over. Let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance continues to climb. Let's go down to the daily, see what kind of action we're looking at. Yeah, we had a little bit of a pullback. Nothing noteworthy. Honestly, red days, like days, don't matter. You want to see those red weeks. When the red weeks come in, that'll be the sign. But these red days don't matter. And we're climbing. We're climbing higher. Man, I can't talk today. We are climbing higher in Bitcoin dominance. So if you want to play the uphill battle, go right ahead. You're probably thinking, oh shit, was that the bottom in Sonic? Probably not. We had a green day. It will probably give it all back. Same with Solana. We had a green day. Is that it? Is this the bottom? Are we going to reverse? Probably not. We're probably going to give all the gains back again. Why would we give all the gains back again? Because Bitcoin dominance keeps climbing. It's really that simple. This is one of the most valuable charts for the altcoin trader to take note of. And my God, I can't wait for this to flip so that I can make all the clickbait thumbnails of all the fucking garbage shit coins that are going to go to the moon, because that will be great for this channel. But it hasn't happened yet. And I've been here every day, every week, telling you, don't touch alts, with the exception of ordinals, of which we were minting the ordinals. Let me know what you guys want to take a look at. And if you guys aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go to blackbox.pro, BLKBöX.pro, and sign up for your free Bitcoin trading bot today. This also grants you free access into the VIP Discord server, where we are sharing all of our trade setups, all of our entries, exits, take profits, educational material. If you don't know anything about trading crypto, get into that group. It's a free to use server. All that we ask is that if you take a trade, you do so with one of our partnered exchanges. And if you set up a bot, you have no choice but to set up a bot with one of our partnered exchanges. But that's the only catch. Everything is free. We will never charge you a dime. It comes at absolutely no cost to you. Once you are in the dashboard, if you're looking to get into the Discord, once you have created an account, you will be logged into this dashboard. Once you're in this dashboard, go down here to the Join Discord tab. That will bring you into Discord. If you don't have a Discord account, it will prompt you to create a Discord account. If you don't want a Discord account, then you don't want to be a trader. So have fun with trying to be a crypto trader without a Discord account. All right. XRP, what's going on in XRP land? XRP still folding over, still rounding over. Nothing really is going to happen with this one anytime soon. It's going to be bearish for a while. We're still looking at May for acceleration on Bitcoin, and that might be June, July for alts. May is where things start to really accelerate for Bitcoin, I believe, and it'll take effect on alts later on down the line. Solana, nothing to write home about. Guys, if you're wondering why my chart looks so different, most of you already know, and I hate to be repetitive, but I only trade the Bitcoin pair. Not that I don't care what the dollar price is. I just don't. You will make entries that are bad entries if you look at the dollar pair. Look for your setups on altcoins specifically. Look for your setups on Bitcoin charts, and you will have far more success. If you see some sort of a pattern on a dollar paired chart, It might play out in the short term, but it will not play out in the long term. When the chart patterns play out, or when they break out on the Bitcoin pair, that is a setup for a long, sustained altcoin rally. These are the little tips. These are the little tips that nobody really listens to, because they get bombarded with all this bullshit information from other YouTubers that are looking at dollar pairs and looking at this, that, and the other, and trying to teach you how to trade. You trade Bitcoin on the dollar pair. You don't trade it on the euro or the Canadian or any other currency. You trade Bitcoin on the dollar pair. You pay attention to what it's doing on the dollar pair, and you pay attention to altcoins on the Bitcoin pair. If you do that, if you watch Bitcoin dominance and you trade your altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, you will be 20 times more successful. I'm not being hyperbolic. I am telling you, that is how you make it. That is how you trade in this market. If you employ those two things, pay attention to Bitcoin dominance and trade on the Bitcoin pair, you will be exponentially more profitable on your altcoin trades. All right. Sonic, we briefly looked at. It'll probably pull back. I don't think Sonic's quite ready yet. So it'll probably come back to, I don't know, 40 cents. Sonic is one that I'm looking at on the dollar pair. Do we have Sonic on the Bitcoin pair? Yep. That's the one we should be looking at. And it's the same story. Same story, different chart. So what are you looking for in Sonic to be a buyer? Good question, Justin. You are looking for a break of this range. Nothing more, nothing less. Once we break out of this range, it's go time. It's really simple. We're in the range, no need to take action. Unless you are an investor, in which case you buy in the lower end. You buy down here. So with the exception of you buying down here as an investor only, and just be aware that Bitcoin dominance is working against you, so you know that your entries can go down to lower prices. That's the only thing to do. You have nothing to do. If we don't do anything, if we just kind of meander around here, you're doing nothing, you're doing nothing. Maybe it dips, you do a dip buy, it comes back up, you're doing nothing. And only when it breaks out, do you go hard. Because that's when it's about to go. So that's how you handle these trades. CRV and Sonic both had good pumps today. Everything had a good pump today, man. When the S&P is up 10%, you're looking at a good day. You're looking at a solid green day. All right, what do you guys want to take a look at? What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? I'm willing to tell you anything you want to hear today. Do we dare go into the degeneracy of meme coins? I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we are there yet. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Has Ethereum stopped being the worst thing in the market to hold? No, it's still horrendous. Is Ethereum seriously down? Like, was that its move? 4%. Good Lord. Good Lord. What a piece of shit. Yeah, my heart pours out to all the Ethereum, all the F heads out there. Drugs are bad. Drugs are bad, okay? We don't need to look at this chart too long. That's horrendous. Like full retrace. Full retrace. Full retrace. From the prior cycle lows. Nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Tether dominance. USDT.D. Sure, we can take a look at Tether dominance. So what you want to see with tether dominance is it's similar to Bitcoin dominance. You want to see it falling. You want to see less and less stable coins out there in the ether. Now, I don't reference this chart very often because, you know, there's a lot of tether out there that is in DeFi protocols and it's getting a yield. So one would argue that that is exposure to something. Also, how do the on-chain analytics determine if the tether is no longer in circulation, it's in an altcoin when we have so many liquidity pools? So this isn't something that I reference that often, but you know, generally speaking, when it's going down, that's good for altcoins because it's showing a little bit of a rotation. But then there's also issuance of new tether, which is also good. I don't really like tether dominance, to be honest with you. Yeah, not a fan. I don't find it. I think there's too much subjectivity to tether. Sometimes tether's making money. Sometimes tether is sidelined. Sometimes tether is being issued and created. Sometimes tether is being destroyed. I don't know. There's a lot of subjectivity there. Looks bullish. Yeah. The chart looks bullish. So does that mean new issuance of tether is coming? And then what does that mean? Inflows from traditional finance. Yeah. Let's take a look at the DXY. I like Bitcoin dominance because Bitcoin is the barometer of health in this market. And if Bitcoin dominance is falling in a bull market, you know, alts are going to rip massive. They're going to rip massively. How's the dollar doing? Dollar's falling. It's what we want to see. It's what we want to see. Big wick on this candle showing a lot of demand for the dollar. Let's see if that demand carries through. Ultimately, we want to get to the bottom of the range. If we can get to the bottom of the range, oops. If we can get to the bottom of the range, we get to test a breakdown. If we break down out of this, that's going to be really good. It's going to be signaling that we're getting close to the end of the bull market. But still, everything will be ripping and it'll be a really fun time. $47 people watching. 11 likes. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the likes. That's great. $30 people watching on YouTube, 16 people watching on X. We had a good little pump there on X. I had 100 people watching on X at one point, and that's teetered off. So interesting. Maybe people are getting rest again, because I know this is late for the North American crowd. People were having sleepless nights during the crash. Now that everybody's happy the price is going up, everybody's chill. They're like, I'm going to bed. It'll be fine. I'll survive another day. What else can we take a look at here? You know what? Instead of tether dominance, let's take a look at total, because we haven't taken a look at total in a while. Yeah, we didn't get the bounce that we were hoping for on total, which that was a month ago now, so we're not entirely surprised by that. And we're lower than the level that we were looking at holding. But this could still, I mean, we got a lot of month left. We have a lot of month left in today's monthly candle. We're doing some pretty high time frame stuff today. There's plenty of month left, so we can totally end this month out green. Actually, that reminds me, we got our touch base back on Bitcoin on the monthly, because just as a reminder, what we mentioned was if this candle closes green, so we said, April has the potential to be a repair month. When we originally said that, we didn't expect to fall as far as we did, but so far we've pretty much rebounded to the point at which we're at doji now. If this candle closes at or above $84,000, which is not hard right now, that's really not hard. If we get a bullish engulfing candle, meaning that this candle is green and the body is larger than this red body, that's a really good signal to the market that yes, indeed, April has been a month of repair. And that sets May up, which we keep coming back to May as being that point at which we break out. That sets May up to be the breakout month. And if May is a breakout month, we rally till next year. We go into up only till next year. And it's going to be incredible. It's going to be just like what happened last time Trump took office. Guys, it's the same shit. It's the same shit, different cycle. Trump took office back here in 2017. I'm expecting this. As far-fetched as it seems, as unrealistic as it seems at times, it feels a lot more realistic on a day like today. But, when I said yesterday, I still expect something like this. I think it's going to happen. We're a little bit behind now, where this is April over here. So, we'd be looking at something like this from this point forwards. So let's actually pull from a breakout candle. If May is a breakout candle to the top, let's pull it and let's bring it over. What are we looking at? What are we looking at? I mean, as crazy as it sounds, we'll go more conservative. We'll go more conservative from the absolute low. Even though I took this from a breakout, we're going to take it from a low. As crazy as it sounds, $680,000. Fucking wild. Doesn't make sense. And that happens in November of 2025, which lines up to the end of the year rally that we're talking about. Does not seem real. Does not seem real. Even if it did half that would be crazy. Fractals are fun. Fractals are fun. They don't, we will. The reality is every cycle creates a different structure, right? This cycle is probably going to be no different. But, last cycle with Trump, it was all trade war. It was all China. It was all correct the trade deficit. Trump is uniquely positioned compared to most other presidents. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think that it's a really interesting point for people to consider. In a normal presidency, you get a maximum of 2 terms. You get 2 4-year terms during a presidency. But when you're in the thick of it and you are the president every day for 8 years straight, you don't really get time to reflect on the behavior of others because you're only reflecting on the behavior of yourself. And you're reflecting on the behavior of your game plan and your current agenda and your current administration and everything that you set up in the beginning. You're pushing forward with on your agenda. Trump is unique. Love him, hate him. We're not going to get into the politics as to where we stand on things. I'm just pointing out that Trump is in a very interesting position because he got to take a term off as an observer, where he got to think, he got to reflect, he got to strategize. He got to reflect on what he did wrong, how he built his cabinet, where it was weak and where it could use improvement. He had a lot of time to reflect on all of the mistakes that he made in the first term and how, if he were to get the opportunity to do it again, how he would do it again differently. How many times do you get an opportunity to redo an opportunity that's given to you? That's super rare. That is super rare. It almost never happens where you are given an opportunity, forget Trump, just you are given an opportunity, then that opportunity is taken away from you. You are given the opportunity to reflect on everything that you did wrong, and you know what you would do if you were given that opportunity again. It's very rare that you're ever given that opportunity again. And Trump's been given that. So he's got a way better administration. He's got a way better cabinet. He's got a way better approach to how he wants to fix the China deficit. Yeah, he's making some moves. Living on the edge for sure. Trump likes to live on the edge. He's trying to make shit happen, man. He's trying to make shit happen. And it's no easy task. He was handed a pile of shit. I mean, fuck. We're talking about 50 years of devolving U.S. policy. It's, no single person fucked this up. Democrats fucked it up. Republicans fucked it up. We are nowhere near what the founding fathers set up for America. We have deviated so far from the Constitution. It's experienced a tremendous amount of damage. So if Trump can even repair what's been damaged by 5%, that's a monumentous achievement. I think he could do 5%, but the system is ultimately still fucked, which is why we Bitcoin. What's up, Rex? All right, back to total. Let's do something that we like to do to kind of monitor the rotation. And we're going to take total and we're going to add total 2. Oh, did we lose it? Total 2 and total 3. Get rid of that. And we'll go 1 year in frame. How are we doing? Or let's go year to date. How are we doing with the rotation? So total is in orange. Total 2 is in red. Total 3 is in purple. One thing that's unique about this cycle is total 2 has remained below total 3 for pretty much every time I've pulled up this comparative. Usually it's total 2, total 3. But this cycle it's total 3, total 2. ETH is just fucking so bad. ETH is just tearing things down so much. It was such a mistake for Ethereum to go to proof of stake. Such a mistake, because they have just fucked their whole thing. They might be worth something if they stayed proof of work, but they went proof of stake. And yeah, this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. When you go proof of stake, this is what happens. It's dragging everything down. So I don't even know if we should be really using this comparative the way we've done it in the past. Right now, what we need to see for altcoins to begin to outperform Bitcoin is we don't even need to wait for total 2 to flip. We just need to wait for total 3 to flip above total. Once total 3 flips above total, once this purple line gets above the orange line, it's going to be altcoin season. And then total 2 will have a sympathy rally that will get it above, and Ethereum will finally recover. But Ethereum's not going to do well. Like if we pull Ethereum back up, let's pull Ethereum back up. This is what I'm anticipating for Ethereum. If you are an Ethereum bull, close your eyes, turn off the stream, go away. When we zoom out on Ethereum, this is what we can expect for the bull market for Ethereum. We'll go from this high to that. The all-time high of Ethereum was 16 million sats. That was the all-time high for Ethereum, 16 million sats, and the monthly close was at 11 million sats. The second all-time high, or the second high for the second cycle for Ethereum, was half of that, 8 million sats. So, following that logic, the next high for Ethereum is no joke, guys, 4 million sats. 4 million sats, which brings us up to like here. So this is where we land for Ethereum, probably. So we will be at 4 million sats in November. Look at that, November. It's all lining up. Everything's lining up. Look at that. Yeah. But, you know, this will be a massive rally. Like, you'll be happy with that, with it going to 4 million sats. But this is proof. If anybody needed proof, more proof that altcoins are not sustainable, I mean, this is not the first time that this is going to happen. This is going to happen to Solana as well. Solana is going to do half of what it's done. It's going to happen to pretty much every altcoin. They go into a downtrend. Everything loses money against Bitcoin. All right, now we got that stupid bearishness out of the way. Let's catch up with the chat and then maybe wrap things up. Traded almost after 3 months since Trump won, and yesterday was the day. Went long on Apple and NASDAQ, and Wara jumped in my portfolio. Nice, well done. ETH is the biggest shitcoin. Yep, by market cap, absolutely. I'm sure there's other ways to measure shitcoins, but by market cap, 100%. The biggest scam is Hex. Sorry if anybody is a Hexakin here. I would like to debate a Hexakin one day, because I know exactly how the scam works. I would like to debate Richard Hart. That would be fun. It won't get anywhere because his followers will believe him no matter what. But I know how his scam works. I'm one of the few people that understand blockchain well enough to be able to be at wits with him in a debate, I think. I'm planning to venture into crypto. Any tips? I mean, if you're just getting into crypto, I would limit. Oh man, you got a lot to learn. You got a lot to learn from a trading perspective. Honestly, I would just do Bitcoin. Tiny little bit of leverage. I don't know if you're trading leverage on any of the, I don't know if you're trading options. I don't know if you're trading futures, but just stick to Bitcoin. If you need an exchange, we have the exchanges linked below. I would choose BitGet of our partners. We're partnered with BitGet, Bybit, and Blowfin. I would choose either BitGet or Bybit because you have inverse contracts. Now, I'm just going to briefly explain to you what's unique about coin margin and inverse contracts. When you're in the stock market, if a stock goes up 10%, you make 10% more dollars. What you can do in crypto is you have the opportunity to make 10% more of the underlying asset. So let's pretend we go long on Bitcoin here. Oops, that's not what I want. I want the long position. Where's long position? Where's our long position? Let's pretend I go long on Bitcoin here. And I go for 10%. 10%. So in a normal circumstance, if this trade is successful, you get, boom, you get your TP, you exit the trade, and you now have 10% more dollars. Now with coin margin and inverse contracts, inverse futures contracts, where you pay in the underlying asset and you are paid out in the underlying asset, when you reach this target of 10%, you have 10% more Bitcoin. And the 10% more Bitcoin that you have just went up 10%. So whereas normal gains are linear, coin margin gains are exponential. So if you're a trader, if you're coming from the traditional market from a trader's perspective, and you're wanting to dabble into crypto, buy a couple spot cryptos just to keep yourself entertained. But if you're wanting to know what to trade from a trading perspective, just focus on Bitcoin, on coin margin in a bull market. In a bear market, you might want to flip to dollar margin, but in a bull market, flip to coin margin because you have this exponential curve to your yields, which no other market has. That's unique. It's really, really cool. Now, that sounds too good to be true. Why doesn't everybody do that? Blah, 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 blah. Well, the downside is true as well. Let's say you shorted Bitcoin and Bitcoin went down 10% and you got 10% more Bitcoin on that short. Well, yes, you got 10% more Bitcoin, but it's worth 10% less. So this is where you can kind of bounce between the two contracts, and you can short with dollar contracts and you can long with margined contracts. So you can get the exponential upside and you can get the linear downside. But if you're just getting in, honestly, just kind of stick to spot. Like if you've never traded Bitcoin before, it's fucking volatile, super, super volatile. So maybe just dabble in the spot market, especially if you are a spot trader in stocks. If you're a spot trader in stocks, don't fucking pile on leverage in crypto. It's too crazy. But that's where I would start. Focus on Bitcoin, understand margined contracts and dollar contracts, and don't get wrapped up in the noise. And if you do find yourself going down an altcoin rabbit hole and you want to invest in altcoins, do not touch centralized exchanges for altcoins. Do not touch leveraged for altcoins. Just buy the altcoin and put it in a wallet, and you will save yourself a lot of headaches. All I did was trade Bitcoin long, and it rose from 79 to 82, but I will try this tip, bro. Just go slow. Go slow. And if you're looking for margined exchanges, we're partnered with Bybit and we're partnered with BitGet. Blowfin is also one of our partners, but they don't have coin margin. So if you're wanting that exponential coin margined effect, then use Bybit or BitGet. I have a video on that too. Should we pull up the video so that you guys can see it? I'll have to find the video. It was Coin M. Let's see what comes up. I can't find the video right now, but I do have trade coin margin futures on BitGet. You can check that out. So here, I'll just drop the video. I'll drop the link so you can check that out. That's more of a tutorial. Let me know what you think. Oh, did it not click? There we go. Oh, it doesn't let me do that. Okay, there we go. All right. I think that's it. It's looking like a good day. We'll probably have a pullback today. And we're waiting to get that move above this downward sloping line of resistance. Once we break the downward sloping line of resistance, then we're looking great. If you guys want to follow me on my trades and follow with any of the altcoins when we finally rotate into altcoins, and you want to be updated in real time so that you don't miss it, because I may not be able to do a video, get into the Discord. You know how to get into the Discord. Blackbox.pro, BLKBöX.pro. Sign up, get it into your dashboard. From the dashboard, enter the Discord. You will be fully verified. That is all the time I have for today. If you guys enjoyed this content, please leave it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, please trade safe. It is a jungle out.